Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, and I am Chris Gazdick, and you're finding us on YouTube live on, what is this, July? This isn't July. My calendar says July
June.
up there, but this is June.
June
And
26th.
June
You
26th.
trying to get ahead of the game here?
No, I schedule in my appointments, and so people are looking in the month that they're scheduling, so
Okay.
June is pretty well spoken for. So this is Adam Cloninger hanging out with us. Hello, sir.
Hello.
And then we have Mr. Neil Robinson coming out behind the curtain.
Hello.
So we are going to be doing a June month in review today. If you're finding us for the first time on this platform, then we start on the YouTube live at about 6:15, about a little bit before we put the live mics on that you'll find on Apple, Spotify, all the places you get your podcasts. So, yeah, we're getting ready to fire up the live show. You have a rabbit hole to go down, maybe?
I do.
You do? Okay.
I
Just was wondering.
yeah, it's a little different. It's a little different.
And have you had a good week, Mr. Neil?
No, it's been atrocious, but that's okay.
Okay, we can share
We're
it with
sorry
the world.
to hear that.
No, it's okay. It's just been busy.
Has it been seriously atrocious? Yeah.
It's been atrocious, yeah.
Oh boy.
But I get off half a day tomorrow to go to a wedding with my wife, so
Not Windows
That's
11.
not fun.
no. I don't do that stuff anymore, which
Yeah,
I
Windows-
kind of wish. Some days I wish I do.
What'd you ask him?
Windows 11.
What about it?
Operating system update, I
Yes.
guess.
Is it updating already?
Do we just
We have another Windows update.
No,
They're going to
it's-
force me before
He's
long.
probably what? Your company's probably upgrading or
yeah,
something?
we're like the last department to go because we have like CAD softwares and stuff that it wouldn't work right now. This is what's so bad. We're having to use MS-DOS prompts to log into certain things instead of having shortcuts.
Wow.
And of course, it's requiring passwords on everything.
We're going back to MS-DOS to open
Just
up a
to
program?
Yes, they're working around it.
That's hysterical. Half of you probably listening don't know what MS-DOS is anymore. If you're above the age of 35. I don't even think programmers, Neil, know what MS-DOS is, do they?
Not new ones. Not
Yeah.
new programmers.
They might know
Right.
it's C prompt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Command prompt, C prompt. They would know those things. But even that's even going out the window like nowadays.
Evidently not.
They're pulling
Well-
it back in.
Well, I would say that when it comes to my previous support, engineering software is usually the last software that ever gets upgraded because once they find a system that works, they write it till it dies. Does that sound about right for you?
Yeah, but I mean, even when we get update to other stuff, it's like the last thing that's thought of. They
It's the most critical stuff, and I think there's a lot of assumptions that it's just going to work, but it's not.
yeah, it doesn't.
It pulls in old DLLs. There's all these weird things
Yep.
that running off of like Windows XP, like permissions. It's crazy. But once again, they built very solid programs that never needed to be upgraded, and so they just kind of wrote it out, and then finally Microsoft screws it up and upgrades stuff. So
Although on a therapy show, if we talk about like Microsoft DOS for a half hour, we're going to lose everyone. So I propose that we get moving on to the review show. What do you think?
Okay.
Let's fire it up, boys.
ready? 3, 2, 1.
Hello, this is Chris Gazdick with Through a Therapist's Eyes. I am your host on June the 26th, 2025. We are going to be doing the June month in review, which is where we kind of go through all the shows that we kind of did this month, check out the highlights, add a little bit here and there with what comes into our mind, and have a good conversation with Mr. Adam Cloninger. How are you, sir?
Good. Hope
I
you
like
are.
your hat, man. Folly Beach. That's a fun place.
Yeah, I was just talking about that a little while ago with my sister. I think it's about time for me to go back.
Oh, you and me both, man. Let's do a beach trip.
I haven't been there in a while.
Dude, I need to see the ocean. I'm down like this weekend. What you doing?
I'll be in West Virginia.
I figured that might be the case. I need to go see the beach. And Mr. Neil Cloninger.
Hey, we're brothers now,
Hey,
Adam.
man.
What's up, bro?
How about that? He is hanging out with us from behind the curtain, Neil Robinson. This is where you get insights usually from a panel of therapists in your home or in your car, but knowing it's not delivery of therapy services in any way. Hey, man, we got the marriage book out, and you start poking that out and selling that thing, man. Through a Therapist's Eyes on Amazon, you can buy a book that helps you understand dynamics of marriage, re-understanding your marriage or becoming your best self as a spouse. What is the title anyway? I always get that tongue twist. It's a lot of words. But that's okay. Subscribe, click the bell. Listen, we try to give you free content that you enjoy. Hopefully we entertain you a little bit. We want to blow up stereotypes, stigmas, and myths about mental health and substance abuse, and we want to give you information, disseminate that to you. So your part is to give us the 5-star reviews. Spotify, Apple, give us some written type reviews. It makes a big difference for people to find us, and we'd really like that. So we can offer this to more people. Contact it through therapisteyes.com is the website. Email to contact us, and then understanding this is the human emotional experience which we endeavor to figure out together, Neil.
Yes,
I love
you do.
that line.
Not to provide.
I said it.
Did he say it?
I did say
He
it.
keeps saying he does, but I must be distracted
didn't.
typing because I don't hear. But he's like, I said it.
Absolutely, I said it. That
Okay.
goes with the, just to get personal time in your car, in your home, and we disseminate the information to you, knowing it's not delivery. I do it.
Okay.
It's in there. What's up, man? How'd your week been?
It's been busy too. I know
Yeah.
Neil was talking about being busy. I've been busy too.
Yeah. So on the month in review, we start the month in review show with what we call Down the Rabbit Hole with Adam. He brings us a crazy topic, a fun topic, an interesting topic, something hopefully to do with mental health and or substance abuse. Sometimes that's questionable. But recently you've been doing really, really well, man. Where are we going at today? Where's the rabbit hole today?
Okay, so today I think this is more of a happier thing. So I've heard this before, and I figured y'all probably had too, but actually saw a little documentary on it. So I got some notes here on my phone that I've kind of wanted to go back and just mention to and kind of get y'all's feedback. And
Okay.
I have some pointers on it about what happened, but I'm just going to kind of. So there's a hypothesis that dog domestication led to human self-domestication.
Say that again?
There's a hypothesis that dog domestication led to human self-domestication.
Dogs got domesticated before humans?
No.
I do not even understand.
Okay, so the hypothesis proposes that there's a potential feedback loop between the two processes. So basically, they're saying, in the breakdown, the key idea is here that the dog domestication, as dogs were the first domesticated animals, they developed unique adaptations, and humans impact on humans. Close cohabitation with wolves, dogs might have influenced humans in several ways. And the key things here is a reduced aggression, enhanced sociality, and cognitive development. Y'all never heard this before?
No.
I'd heard of it years ago, but I just...
Sociology is where this is coming from, and that's fascinating. But I'm not understanding it. What I think I hear you saying is that humans, of course, domesticated themselves in homes and caves and whatever, in the homeostasis or the whatever, when cavemen were coming us. And then when they started incorporating dogs into their community or into their relationship, that changed humans in clear and dramatic ways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
And that now it started from the documentary I saw, and this is the part I wasn't familiar with. There was a study done. It was years ago. I don't remember if it was in the 70s or 60s or whatever. But they were doing some research on foxes, and they were breeding foxes, and they were picking out different attributes on it, kind of trying to domesticate foxes. And they started noting different things about like the size of their face, the floppier ears, the less aggression, and that's where this kind of hypothesis finally started from.
so you know what's fascinating about this, Neil, is Adam was listening to all the June 2025 shows closely the whole time, because this has to come, Adam, from the show that we did on the healing power of relationships, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. I was listening to the show,
Seriously,
and that's
man.
the first thing I thought of.
Because we talked about similar concepts, actually, in that. That's where my head went, Neil, right? We were talking about like dogs and man's best friend, and how that really does have an impact on relationships.
Yeah, the interesting part is because it started making sense, right? If mankind is always hunting, gathering, all of those things, and then you bring in a partner like a dog to come in and takes some of that responsibility off of you. Now you
Protection.
don't have to, be always on guard. We talk about reduced aggression, right? And then dogs have a natural pack tendency, right, with relationships and building things. So now that you bring them in, they become your pals and your buddies, and you build that relationship too. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that
It really does.
while we did domesticate the dogs, it still comes back like it does
They
create a
impacted us,
cycle.
too.
They heavily impacted us because of that thing, and that's why dogs are awesome.
I think that's absolutely more than likely, Adam. And man's best friend is that statement comes for a reason. And we can get into, and we'll get into it on that segment. Honestly, maybe we should reserve a little bit, and combine the rabbit hole with what was that, show 3, I think.
So
right?
this is
Or show
actually
2.
one of the ones you're going to be reviewing.
Seriously, it really was. Yeah,
Okay.
we did a show on the second. Where's it at?
The healing power relationship.
Yeah,
so
here
it
it
was
is. It is the
315.
second show that we were going to review, is talking about the relationships that we have with people and how important those relationships are to our wellness and our mental health. Because the reality of it is we are so splintered in a lot of ways now with social media and whatnot, and I think that we're losing that a lot of that closeness. And so when you're living with and communing with an animal, though they're not speaking a language or developing a human-to-human relationship, they're absolutely developing a relationship with you. It's our pet. And that's disturbing when they get hurt or when they get upset. And their mannerisms are going to be a part of the culture of the group. So, yeah, I could see how that naturally coalesced together.
Now, of course, there's people who saying it's all a bunch of bull and they have reasons that they think it's not. But
Well,
I thought it was.
Those are dumb people.
I thought it was really interesting. I really did.
Those are dumb people. No, that is fascinating. As a matter of fact, I haven't studied a lot on sociology and the study of cultures from different areas of the world and different ages and times and compared them all and whatever. But I think that stuff is fascinating. The humanistic nature of the way we developed socially and emotionally is a big deal. Am I missing something? You guys are looking at the book and like using the phones.
No.
What's going on? I'm confused.
No, I was looking at something else from something earlier that we'll bring up later, but I was looking up something else. No.
I was like, he's looking up here at this thing you guys are both on.
No, I'm just-
I was like, what happened?
I was looking for the comment. I told you we had a comment on one of our shorts, and I was gonna bring that up when we talk about. So I was just pulling it.
Oh
up,
yeah,
so I
that's
have
a
it for
that's a
later.
cool thing to do. Actually,
So-
I kind of intended to do that on a couple comments we had on some shows because there was another really good.
So yeah,
one.
so if you do catch anything of our shows, feel free to comment. Chris and me are always on these. Chris is really on top of these comments, so he'll give you his feedback. So if you don't agree with him, tell him you don't agree with him, and tell him why. We have actually I've seen a few conversations start from these things. That's been really fun. So if you listen to the show, comment on our lives, comment on our shorts. Give us your 2 cents on it, so we can either agree, disagree, or just agree to disagree.
Absolutely, yeah. We did the one on love recently, and we were talking about the language of love and that kind of thing. And some people had, it was a cool little discussion. I didn't make
That was
copies
that
of
was
it, no.
last month, wasn't it?
Last week, actually.
Didn't y'all do something last month that was similar about that though? I thought we reviewed something last month that had something along those same lines.
Did we?
I don't know. It
I'm
all
not
blurs
sure.
together. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
there's too many shows to bleed
It's just
together.
blurred.
To put me on the spot that quick is difficult. So shall we go in then? Because this will come back up. It was a little quick on the
what show
rabbit
are we
hole.
at on now?
So we are on the first show is episode 314 that we did. Don't take things personally in your marriage. This should be a fun conversation with 3 guys, I think. First of all, I will say I feel as though I'm going to do the same project with book number 2 that I did with book number 1. And book number 1, what I did was I took all of the chapters and I came up with categories, and it ended up being like 4 of them. That sort of whittled the whole book down into like 4 categories. They were stop and reflect on emotions, value yourself, focus points, and action points. And so it was just kind of neat. It wasn't all of the chapters, but it was most all of the chapters fit in some way or another to one of those 4 categories. And I'm going to do the same thing with the marriage book. So I'm going to take all the chapters together and kind of bunch them together and play around with what are the themes, because those are going to whittle down the entire marriage book into like these themes, which I think is really pretty cool the way it worked with book number 1. So one of these I know is going to be don't take things personally in your marriage. So that's a bit of the genesis of this. because it is a huge area in a marriage that if you're doing a lot of this, you're probably going to be struggling. If you're not doing a lot of this, you're probably going to be in what we call a healthy relationship. I think this is a really pivotal concept in the concept of marriage. What do you think about the show when we recorded that, Neil? Don't take things, is it too long to remember? Too long ago for you? Sorry,
No.
that was rather rude and aggressive, wasn't it?
No, I think I remember parts of it. I definitely remember the parts where John and Victoria said important stuff, but
Just not your part.
just not yours.
Shots fired.
I think this is so critical, right? I think that's when it comes to a healthy relationship, like you guys did a really good job talking about, how do you balance, how do you fight with those things? Because if you live in a relationship that everything that happens is taken personally, it's gonna cause a lot of issues. And so I think you guys did a great job talking about how to not do that, where do you go with these pieces, how to help remediate some of those things. And I think you also talked about like past traumas and stuff, right? Where you talk about past traumas can
100%.
lead to a lot of those things. So that was a really, really good show. So to me, if you are struggling with that in your relationship, go back and watch it, because it does help you get to the root of why do I take when my wife says something, what triggers me? Or if you say something to your wife and she gets triggered on it and she gets defensive, she's like, there's more to this than people understand. So it's a great show to start trying to help you understand, like, why do I react like this, or why did my wife or my husband react like that? It was a really good show.
Yeah, that's and you know what, honestly, Neil, that's a wonderful, quick little activity or question to ask yourself, honestly. That's a cool teaching moment, because when you're in a close attachment and something's going on and you feel some sort of way, as the kids say, you get in your feels. That's what the kids say. You're in your feels. So if you ask yourself the question, why am I thinking the way that I'm thinking about this, or why am I feeling this way? Just simply looking and pausing, like, what's going on with me here? You will probably find out that you've taken something personally. And then you can pull yourself back off of that ledge and correct it.
There's one book I read at one point where the guy had a thing where when you find yourself getting worked up about something, you ask yourself, is it true or was it true?
Yeah.
You analyze it and then you ask yourself again. So it's kind of like the 7 whys or whatever. It's the same thing. You ask yourself 3 times,
7?
Is it true? There's something about that, like so many whys that you have to ask. 5. There we go.
Are there 5 wives?
5.
7
Yeah.
wives?
Why?
Wives.
Wise.
I want 7 wives.
Do you?
Sorry.
But it's that same idea, right? When I'm getting triggered, this happens, is it true? Did she really attack me with that? Did she really? But you ask yourself that and you rationalize the same thing. It's just another way to process through those things. And instead of me reacting, well, did she say that because she really doesn't like my hat that I have? Or is there something else going on?
Or is she just mad at me and wants to
lash
Light
out?
me up.
wants to say
Because I said something that reminded her of an ex-boyfriend or
she
something.
actually likes my hat,
Yeah.
but not tonight.
At all. And your beard sucks too, Adam.
You're
Yeah,
hat.
there's a lot of nuance, Neil. I think you're right. Yeah, there's also a lot of nuance and a lot of things that kind of go on with that. And if you're not paying attention, you will blow somebody up over a hat and not even realize it.
When I worked corporate, one of the things they did as a team building thing, and one of the things they told people to do is assume positive intent. Like, because a lot of times in corporate, you get to things where someone does something and then another person gets mad because they think they're trying to sabotage them. And it's like, well, we're going to work on assuming positive intent. Whether there is malicious intent or not, the fact that you assume positive changes how you react.
Yeah,
right?
that keeps you nicer.
Right. It keeps you nicer.
It does, yeah.
It keeps you from overreacting. It keeps things from escalating too fast. So it's one of those things. It's kind of the same idea. If someone says something to you, or your spouse says something to you, or your partner says something, assume positive intent. Like, they're not really trying to get mad at me. They just, that hat clashed with your eyes, Adam, and it just didn't work today, right? It's not because you're stupid and ugly and all that other stuff, right?
The glasses are a little ugly, though. You know what you think?
As someone who wears glasses,
they're
I
not
think
really
I think they're great.
Huh?
I think they're great. They're good glasses.
Well, they're awful thin.
Well, some people don't have that bad of eyes.
I think he's still mad about the political conversation we had before.
Adam's gonna come in next time. He's gonna have like no beard, no hat, no glasses.
No, that won't happen. I'm gonna have the beard. Julie loves the beard.
So what about the questions? So let's try to answer these with the provocative questions to think about while the show is going on. How do you typically react when your partner offers criticism or feedback? Can you identify specific triggers that lead you to take things personally in your marriage? And then what strengths have you found effective in maintaining emotional balance during conflicts? So what do you think? Maybe not for yourself individually, but, how do people typically react to their partner offers criticism or feedback? Right? So your partner's coming at you with an idea. We're actually getting a message. Sound is jacked up today. We need to wonder about that.
Just everybody or just one person?
Everybody or one person, Julie? So, yeah, curious.
All right.
Do a quick check. Everything all right?
I'm getting the bars, so everything seems fine.
You're getting the bars. I'm going to say that's you, dear. Hopefully, anyway. So what happens generally when people come at us with criticisms and feedback and this type of thing when you're in some sort of discussion?
Well, some people can't deal with any kind of criticism regardless.
At all.
At all.
Yeah. Can get pretty rough.
Like, I can say from experience, my ex, you could be agreeing with her and she thinks you're attacking her. They're like, that's what I'm saying.
But you didn't say it the right way. That was the problem.
Oh, I hate that phrase. I will get that sometimes too. Like it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Like, shut up. I don't want to stop. This is stupid. I'm sorry, I didn't put that around the world. Did I say that out loud, or was that just a thought?
What? Shut up.
Well, that goes back to the difference in like the North versus the South part of America, right? You look at the New Yorkers versus the Southerners, and just they can say the same thing, but because the way they're said, it's taken completely different because of the relationships, the people that they have, how they communicate. Like, it is how you say it.
Yeah.
that changes the whole thing, right?
I guess.
Well,
By the way, you're coming in and out, Neil.
There was a guy that I used to work with that a lot of people thought he was a jerk. But then, and I kind of did too, and I had some kind of heated discussions with him. Then one day I realized, okay, I said something and he's agreeing with me. He sounds the exact same way. It's like he was passionate about the stuff that was going on, but the way he talked about it is like this.
The pressure.
Yeah,
The pressure. I think there's, generally speaking, I find that people get in their own head. So the challenge of, am I stupid looking? Am I sounding dumb? Am I looking, inadequate in some way? Is there something going on? Why are they upset? Why are, we're so egocentric minded. Then that's when, if I feel like you're saying something's wrong with me, now I'm going to attack back. And so this is where you get into crazy arguments in marriage over stupid stuff like crumbs on a table.
Sound any better?
I should probably talk so she can test and let me know. So Julie, let us know if there was any issues. So, but no, and that I think that there's a lot of stuff that comes into play that we just don't understand until it's too late. When you build up this thing for 2 or 3 months, anything that your other person says, you get hurt by, you get insulted by, and then it just gets to the point where they don't actually take a step back to realize, we need to figure it out. Like my wife and I will go through and we'll just be, some things come up. Either one of us gets triggered and we get to the point where sometimes we have to work it out. Sometimes it's a day later, we might be like, oh yeah, I was kind of heated yesterday. We talk about it. But if you don't circle back to it, address it, you're just going to assume the other person either thinks you're stupid or whatever, like you said, those are things that happen, but you have to circle back and say, did you really mean it this way? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Did I take it wrong? So there's a lot of stuff that people, if they don't come back and address it, it leads to resentment, which we kind of talk about in the other stuff, but it leads to resentment, which resentment is like the killer of marriages. Right?
I think sometimes people mean it at that time and then
think about it and think that was probably not the best
I was out of line.
Yeah. Did it really mean it? Neil, yeah, you are touching on a teaching moment there, honestly, with the idea that we talk a lot about in therapy world to get curious rather than get angry. It's kind of like you said before too. We want to check out, like, assume that there's good intent, and check out and search what this person really is trying to do in a positive way. Similar to that way, if you get curious about what's going on rather than just feel attacked or feel taking it personally, you'll be in a much better space. So get curious is what I was thinking about when you were talking, Neil. So I baited people with a second question. Can you see how I may have baited people? Can you identify specific triggers that lead you to take things personally in your relationship?
Say that again.
Can you think of specific triggers, right, that lead you to taking things personally?
Not for me, but I can think of, there would be times where I'd say somebody was, I don't know, short, fat, dumb,
wearing ugly glasses,
or liked certain black and yellow teams or something like that. I'm kidding. I have no.
Steelers are wonderful, by the way. Are you in mid-thought, or did I just take you away? You know what? I'm going to take you away because I baited people, Neil. Any way of understanding how I baited people there? Come on, marriage. I got to talk about EFT, right? There it is. Those are fundamental triggers. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, how you react when things get stressful, right?
Right.
Hiding or attacking. I mean, encroaching, whatever you want to say for abandonment people.
We pursue. Yeah, it's the whole EFT thing. Like the abandonment people pursue, engulfment people withdraw. We've talked about it on the show a lot because it's so
EFT.
It's so fundamental with emotionally focused therapy, EFT, right? And we've got a lot of shows on that. 11, 101, 201, 301 are good ones to go at, and 401 when we create it. You see a pattern there. But no, those insecurity states absolutely are going to be at, I'm going to make up a number, but like 90% of the foundations of what you take personally, because you start losing your mind when you get into that scared state.
Because you're kind of triggered.
You're triggered. You're tripped out. You're not in your head. You just literally, your emotions took over. So when your emotions take over, when you're scared the most. So
the person basically hears
totally
something like, "I don't like your team, but I actually think what you had was a good idea a while ago." And you're like, all you heard was, "I don't like your team."
And you're going to leave me. I'm going to be alone. And now we have a problem. And I'm an abandoned person. And we have to talk about it. Yeah. Right? Or should we do the engulfment thing? Say it again. Go ahead. Say the same line.
I don't know what I said exactly.
That you don't like his team?
Yeah. I'm kidding about your team.
My team's fine. I'm not worried about it.
I'm just saying, so people get triggered by something, and then and they hear something, and then from that point on, they're like.
So the same line was, "Hey, I don't like your team," but you had a really good idea with the thing.
Yeah.
An engulfment person's going to say, "Oh, now you're triggering me. You're criticizing me, and you're coming down on me and crashing on me." So it doesn't. My point is, it doesn't matter what you said. I have my own perspective for my own insecurity set, and I'll go with that. That's what's going to dominate me. So that's what people get triggered by, I think.
And then you have this situation where if you don't realize your partner is an abandonment or engulfment, when an engulfment person shuts down and goes away, you freak out because
we're alone.
What happened? What's going on? And then when the abandoned person comes back and matches your energy and some, because they're trying to overcompensate what you've done because now they're hurt. You don't know how or why they're doing that, right? So understanding the other partners, like how they react when they do get triggered or take things personal, changes the dynamic of, once again, assuming positive intent or what's going on or why are they doing this,
and
right?
Get curious.
Yeah.
Get curious. Lastly, what strategies have you found effective in maintaining emotional balance during conflicts? Look, when you're talking about taking things personally in marriage, you have got to understand what you're trying to do is prevent your internal emotion from taking over. So really the answer to this question, what strategies do you use to develop internal resiliency? That's the main thrust. Because if you're internally resilient, the partner may be coming at you and criticizing you, or maybe shutting down and leaving you, but that doesn't have to mean that it's about you. And if you can figure that out man, you will save yourself a whole lot of literal heartache as a result. So anyway, where we landed on this is just I think pretty good list of strategies or things to help you out in that endeavor that I just said. How do we go through that? It's a long list. Should I just read it, Neil? Pause before reacting. You go to the next one.
Seek clarification.
Reframe feedback.
Build self-awareness.
I actually have been talking about develop curiosity.
Trust is something built, not just given blindly.
Pausing on trust is like, there's a lot that goes into that. If you have a highly developed trust level in a relationship, you're going to traverse this a whole lot better than if you're already in a distrusting state. You're really kind of screwed. But understand there's two elements to trust I always like to point out, and a scale of 1 to 100. 100 is high levels of trust, 1 is limited or none. You're going to trust somebody's intent, and you're also going to entrust somebody's ability. So you might trust your husband's intent to talk with you and to be with you and to love with you, but you might not really trust their ability because you see that they're drinking, 10 beers a day, and they're not fully functional here.
Right.
So their ability is very limited trust, though you might trust their intent on a high level. Anyway, trust is just a big deal.
And I think that's also super important to differentiate that, right? If you have an argument with someone, if that's not being trusted by your partner is a big, could be a big trigger for a lot of people, right? I trust you. Why don't you trust me, right?
Oh,
well, yeah. Being able to very clearly state, well, I know you have good intentions, but I know your follow through sucks.
Right.
So how do we work through that, right? And so the fact that you can say, hey, I trust you 50% of the stuff, at least opens the door for that conversation, right? Because I just think a lot of people, they just say, I either trust you or I don't. But breaking it down to the two different things allows you to open up that door and say, hey, I trust your ability, but sometimes your intent's off. I don't know if you really...
Neil, people are terrified to have those kind of conversations. I mean, you totally just described a magical and amazing and a very healthy process. I find in marital counseling, I have to really, really set that up and carefully, converse that. I have to facilitate that and traverse that with people because that doesn't come naturally. People are struggling to do that.
They have a lot of baggage to work through, and I think the idea of breaking down the trust, because I don't think before I don't know if I've really heard it as far as the two different levels of trust, right? Mm. And so it kind of just reframes
There's a lot there.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting way to kind of break it down. I just don't think people understand that, right?
You'll see this list of things, strategies to avoid taking things personally, has a lot to do with how you're managing your own emotion. One of the things I brainstorm is build yourself up. You have got to understand that your spouse is not on this earth to make you happy, Adam. He's stone-faced because he's shocked.
My future one is.
That's not true. She does a good job of
She
that.
does a great job.
But she is not here to make your life, well, or to make your emotions secure, or to engage your trauma and make it better.
You may get a message here in a minute.
That's what she's going to do? She's going to fix your emotions. I'm looking for an email here. On my phone would be a text. Having other outlets to support yourself, family, friends, super important. I just put on there, develop internal resiliency. The serenity prayer is an amazing piece of this. The serenity to accept the things you cannot change, the courage to change the things that you can, and the wisdom to know the difference is huge in internal resiliency, thus huge in not taking things personally. From the article below, things to avoid. You assume someone is out to get you. You label the other's person. Quietly continue your sense of insecurity and isolation. Those are... I need to read... You remember that article, Neil? I don't think I even remember that.
Nope.
I don't. Those are things to avoid. Anyway, understanding your family culture is a huge piece here, too. I didn't have great models, man. Love my mom and dad, but, they were not good models at all. And if you don't have a good model, you're starting this game out not having any idea what to do because you've never seen it. Right? Understand your culture, deal effectively with your own distress, and then let feelings come and go as they will. understanding. They can lie to you. That's just emotion management, right? Let's move on to show number 2, The Healing Power of Relationships, where we get to talk about Adam's dogs. Adam's dogs from the sociology thing. The 3 questions. What relationship in your life has had the most positive impact on your well-being? When have you felt supported or healed by someone close to you, and how did it affect you? And what's one small step you could take today to strengthen a bond in your social circle? So if we dive into those a little bit, who's the most impactful? I want to answer this honestly because I love answering this right now. Just because my mom's in a memory care facility, it's been really tough to watch her progress into the dementia, and she is a good gal, man, a good woman. I like to say, man, she made everything seem okay when nothing was okay back in the days of divorce and single parent and all that. So I have mad respect for my mom. I love her deeply, and just she did a lot for all 3 of us kids. So she's an amazing woman. Love you, Mom. Although she's in memory care, she's a little different, right? So that's definitely my answer to that. But do you think people have a hard time or easy time answering, like thinking who really influenced me that way?
I think some people have a hard time, but
Yeah.
I think some people have an easy time.
Okay.
I think if you put caveats to it, like, it can't be your spouse, it can't be your parents, it can't be your sibling, right? If you put those caveats, I think it changes the whole dynamic of the
Yeah,
conversation.
now you're gonna make it real hard.
Because I think
sure.
because this was a show where Alicia actually, because everything else fell through, actually Alicia was on the show with me, and so it's like the easy answer is like, yeah, she impacted me. And
that was the show she was in,
Yeah.
right? Was that the one? Shout out to Alicia, Miss Alicia Robinson, for hanging out with us to cover a show with us. That worked out great.
yeah, that was fantastic. So yeah, I think there's a lot of people that make impact, but I think if you take the caveat of family and those things, it kind of changes the whole dynamic. So I think there's a lot of people that have impact, but if you think about someone that's not family, that makes it a little bit harder, coworkers, friends, classmates.
It would.
Right?
That's true. That's really, really good point.
Like if you take your mom out of the equation,
Yeah, it
who
can't be
made an
family.
impact for you?
That's what I was just experimenting with and thinking. I mean, healing kind of thing. I would have to think about it. That's totally a head scratcher.
So for me, I can think of like different aspects about certain people. Like there's a supervisor I used to work with, and then one thing he always said when you come in, you say, "I got a problem. We have an opportunity."
Oh yes, it's a reframe.
So I mean, it's
Total reframe.
that was something that I remember this day him saying that, and but
Made an impact on you and
that's
stuck
just
with you.
one thing I can think of, just that, but I can't really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a healing nature and stuff. And honestly, when you get out of family, I was started to think about my kids and my family. I was stuck on that, but that's a pretty easy question for me, honestly. Though, thinking of friends, like I can think of just the people that I call friends. They're really, really close to me, and I mean, they have I've had many 2:00 in the morning conversations with one of these guys that I'm thinking about. So you go and you think about what the friendship do for you, who's impactful in that way, and you probably go right to your best friend, as a good answer.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important to think about too is like if someone's impactful to you, and how they treat you in that whole relationship, like what can you do to, I think it talks about the, what small step can you do to strengthen your bond with someone else, right? If you know that someone impacted you,
That's the third question.
right?
Yeah.
The third question,
go there.
right? So then the thing is like, now what can you do to your other friends or your other people to be like, how can I make an impact on them, right? And so it kind of shifts it a little bit, because it becomes, relationships are a give and take, right? Sometimes one relationship you're taking, and some relationships you're giving. And I think that's a very thing to remember, that if you're impacted, what can you do to impact someone else?
Absolutely. There's a reciprocation that you want to do. But what's interesting? Well, the third question actually is a little bit different flavor. What's one small step you could take today to strengthen a bond in your social circle? And what I think about is the friendship shows that we've done. Like, I have this belief that if you want to deepen or strengthen a friendship or create a friendship, then you do a genuine reveal. And what I mean by that is if I start talking to you, Neil, and I don't really know you that well, and I'm sharing, some pretty heavy things, pretty important things to my life, like the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be really good this year at the Pittsburgh Steelers camp. The training camp opens in 2 months. Adam, I'm so excited.
I'm excited for you, Chris.
Yeah, man.
I hope it does do real well.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. I don't think you really meant it, Neil, though. But if I meet you and I don't know you and I start talking about something that is vulnerable or that is a reveal, that is going to invite you to in turn do the same thing. It almost gives you permission to reciprocate, knowing that you're not going out on a ledge because I've already done that. So interestingly enough, if you want to strengthen your social circle, reveal more about yourself to them.
Well, that's like people say about if you want somebody to trust you,
Fair enough.
ask them for something first before.
Wait a minute. What do they say?
Yeah, I remember seeing something about there was a study about if, say, person one needs person two to like trust them, then person one might ask them for something like, "Hey, can you hand me those napkins or whatever?" Just
Right.
something small to ask them for something. That way they feel like the person's more trustworthy because they actually asked for something minor.
I don't think I've seen
you've
this
never
or
heard that
this
before? Okay.
No. You coming across anything in your travels?
I'm probably stating it incorrectly or something.
I mean, it makes sense. You start with something small that they can kind of
That's insignificant.
right that they can accomplish for you, right?
It's not risky.
Right,
Yeah.
not risky. But yet now it's all of a sudden.
Okay,
it
poor
starts with-
example, but you said it right. That makes sense. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't take that defensive,
Yeah,
okay?
no, I don't.
It was a horrible example. What
I
were you
know.
thinking?
What I thought you were saying is, I need to trust you, or I need to I need
I mean,
to
you don't
trust
walk
you,
in and
so-
say, "Hey, I need money."
So I'm going to test you and say, hey, can you go jump off that bridge for me?
No, something
or
insignificant.
a mafia type thing where hey, go down and hit this guy out. Then we'll trust you. Yeah, not quite. That's not quite what you meant, I guess, right?
No.
This is an interesting show concept, I think, because the healing power of connection is so strong and so important in the way that we're going to relate to each other, and particularly, but not exclusively by any measure, men tend to fall into a trap where we just want to be a lone wolf and not talk about anything that's significant and internalize all this stuff and try to appear strong. And women do this too. This is not just a guy thing, but man, it just doesn't work really well. You're not going to heal very well if you try to just do that on your own. You definitely, quote unquote, need other people. Would you guys agree with that general statement?
And dogs.
And
And dogs.
and dogs. Yes, and dogs. That's awesome. All right. There's a lot of science behind this. We talked about it a little bit more than I think I'm going to do here, but if you think about physical touch, hugging, holding hands, expressions of appreciation, I have a really perfect example of an appreciation gesture that was given to me as a kid, and it made a big impact. So there is a drop in cortisol. There is a drop in adrenaline. When you're talking about hanging out with the dogs, this is why it was so uncanny. I'm like, he clearly listened to episode, what was this anyway, Neil?
315.
315. Because when you brought up the sociological rabbit hole, the dogs make a massive influence in the group when you invite them in to the unit. We didn't know it back then, but literally adrenaline drops. You don't have to be on guard. You don't have to be on edge. Your cortisol is a hormone that keeps you like wrangled. Like I will get shaky when I'm shaken mad. Do you ever hear that expression, shaking mad? Well, that's because your body literally has this entire adrenaline cortisol hormonal reaction when you're all worked up. And when you pet a dog or when somebody is with you, if you have a companion, when you hug, when you touch, that is a powerful, powerful signal to the human body to settle down, to be calm. Like, it's really, really cool.
So
Right?
I'm going to find this documentary and send it to you so you can watch it.
I would be
I
fascinated.
mean, I really liked it.
Seriously, I would be fascinated with that.
And it's saying everything you're saying now.
Yeah, that's cool. So evidently I'm on point, Neil. So when I was a kid, I was very insecure. It was during the divorce time that I just mentioned. I had a lot of struggle adjusting to all of that. That was a tough time, humdinger in my life. And so I started working when I was about 16. Got a job. And there was this kid that I thought, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just thought he was really, really cool. His name was Shmoo. His nickname was Shmoo. And I don't know. He was just he was a cool kid. And I did not feel like I was a cool kid at all. And so it was just one random day I saw that he was approaching me, and I was walking towards him. And as we were crossing paths, he stuck his hand up as if to give me a high five. And I was like, oh, my God, he's giving me a high five. Like,
I'm a cool kid.
I'm a cool kid. And I gave him a high five. And, I mean, he has no idea. But for me, that was like a very strong, powerful experience that kind of helped me understand, like, oh, like, and they were all older than me, too. I mean, I was the young guy. I was I was also new and slow at my job. And I just felt included and appreciated when he did that. And he was just nothing but a high five.
I'm glad he didn't, like, say psych and smack you in the back of the head.
Well, that would have been like every other day when I was being picked on. No, I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating. But does that make sense? Physical touch is important.
Yeah.
Physical touch and hugging and holding people, that you care for and care about, it drives me nuts that my kid doesn't want to be hugged. He's really weird about that because, I was at a conference and learned, like, when you don't touch your teenagers, they literally begin to incorporate internalized feelings that you don't love them like you did when you wrestled with them and hugged them and cuddled with them and sat on the couch and all of that, and it stops with your teenagers. So a great parenting tip unintended, but is now touch your teenagers. You have to find a way to convey through that they're important, that I'm here for you. Touch is huge. It has a lot of chemicals involved. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm droning on now. I need to stop talking. Somebody else talk. Thank you.
Well, we're going through that with my, having two kids. I think you talked about your kids too, Chris. That with your two boys, there's a difference in how they handle, right? My kids are the same way. My oldest one will go up to, Alicia and get a hug and kind of hang on her because he's more touchy. He's more touchy, right? My youngest, like, he hates it.
Yeah.
He doesn't do hugs. Like, we joke because he'll throat punch Alicia's neck with his shoulder.
The chest, yeah.
With his shoulder because of his height, but because he doesn't want to do a real hug. It's like, and so we've had a lot of issues with that lately because my wife is a hugger. I'm not a hugger, which I've had to become one, and we've talked about length of hugs in the last.
We did,
episode,
yeah. How you doing with that, by the way?
Oh, I'm doing good with that one.
A little bit longer hugs now.
Yeah, Alicia's been working on me with that one.
I love that.
What if it's
100% genetic, and I feel bad for my wife having to deal with both of us. But no, that is a big difference, right? So for me, it's like I'll walk up, I'll rub their back or just kind of do a quick squeeze or fist bump, right? As a guy, you do fist bumps.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's just always being aware. But my wife wants a hug. It's like, give me a hug. Like,
but if you think about that, the fist bump, and I told my high five story. What do you feel like immediately after somebody does that with you? Like, it's an acknowledgement of, I am accepted, I am enough, I am okay. I'm not going to fist bump a stranger. I'm not going to, what's that?
I will.
You will?
Go, yeah, if they come up to me, I'll do a fist bump.
I mean, well, you obviously you do, but I'm saying if I see somebody that the difference. If I see somebody that I know, it's a much different experience than if it's a stranger and I'm just shaking their hand. That's, yeah.
Okay, so you're in Japan.
Yep.
And you're walking in Japan, and this guy's walking towards you, and
might happen.
And he's got a really cool Steelers shirt on.
Oh, we're totally jamming.
So you're gonna fist bump.
We're totally jamming. Oh yeah, we're gonna stop and have a conversation.
So it just depends on the situation.
It does. It is situational. No, we're gonna have a full conversation in Japan. That's what's gonna happen there. Okay, here's something before we need to move on a little bit, I think. But I really wanted to spend a little bit of time on mirror neurons with this episode because this is freaking fascinating. And of all places, ChatGPT kind of helped me learn a little bit about this because I've never heard it quite this way. Now, Neil, I know we've talked about it on a show a little bit. I don't know what you remember and whatnot, but either of you know much about or ever hear much? I'm curious, especially you, Adam, about mirror neurons. Did you know we have them?
I thought we did this on a show before, too.
Well, okay, we probably have.
Okay.
Then. We probably have then. Yeah. Okay, well, then, yeah, we've talked a little bit about it, but I haven't heard it
You're
this
talking
way.
about like you talking to somebody and they, for example, you're like leaning on to get something, and I might do the same thing, might make you feel more comfortable or something like that. You talking about that or something else?
I think that honestly, I don't think I know what I'm talking about because
Okay.
I don't think we understand this stuff a whole lot. We're talking about the neurons in your brain and how they operate and what functionally they do. And we've only begun to understand even how many neurons we have. It's wild, new science, new age kind of stuff. But you're exactly on point. There's a symmetry that you develop. Think about it this way. And this is all my hypothesis, by the way, because I'm not gonna say that I'm an expert on this by any measure. I am not a neurologist, but I think about it this way, Adam. Have you ever had the experience of picking up on and then finding yourself with a specific mannerism that you saw that somebody else has that you just start doing?
No.
You don't really?
No, I can't think of anything like that.
He's weird, Neil. You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever picked up on that?
Yeah, you get those things where you're
Yeah.
around certain people, you pick up behaviors, you pick up habits, right?
Right.
Adam is definitely one of the, like, he's his own. He goes to the beat of his own drum and stuff like that. So
Maybe, but you don't ever remember yourself like with a mannerisms using a particular word. Like if I say cool beans, it's an old phrase. Now you might start saying cool beans this next week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. In that sense, yes.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's body movements, there's hand gestures, there's voice tone. There are things that you pick up on, and I think that that is mirror neurons in practice. That's what these things are. So I ChatGPT'd this stuff, and I was kind of impressed.
Is it because you think it's because we're not using them like we used to?
Not using them like we used to? What do you mean?
Like, social media and stuff, we're like,
That'd be an interesting study after we figure out what's going on with mirroring neurons, how social media has affected it. Because I would say that they're struggling, that we're probably losing the functionality of.
I was
mirroring
thinking
neurons.
more along the lines is we're trying to find another way to use it since we're not using it the way it was intended.
I have
what?
no idea. That's a rabbit hole.
Okay.
Do that next month. See where we end up. But what are these? Mirror neurons are specialized brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing the same action, which is kind of what we were just talking about, right? They were first discovered in the early 1990s by researchers studying monkeys, but evidence shows that humans have them obviously as well. So it's interesting to think about how that biological foundation functions, right? It creates empathy. We have the social connection. We have the learning through imitation. We have emotion contagion. I almost feel like this is why when somebody yawns, you know what the rest of the room's going to do, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to yawn.
This goes along with the dog thing, too.
Totally goes along with the dog thing. Tell me what you're thinking.
No, I mean, just you're... And I think he said it a while ago about the social interaction with the dogs. You're socially interacting with dogs because wolves are like a pack animal. So you did say something along those lines, did you not?
yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what it's doing is it's healing us in a way. It's providing the emotional safety, the validation. Dogs heal us. That's what we said. Sociologically, it's pretty wild. There's co-regulation. I do this in therapy a lot. That empathetic connection, we are fostering all the time to have good rapport, good connection, so I can actually hear your traumatic story demonstrate, took a breath and just relaxed my shoulders. It literally demonstrates for you in session when you're in your trauma story how, because I just did it, to relax into this moment. Co-regulation. I mean, this is huge. Modeling new patterns of behavior. A lot of factors go into that.
So you're saying you try to relax to make them also try to realize. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a purposeful, functional thing that when, like even like with Gestalt therapy, if we're sitting here, the way we're sitting, I'm not going to try to demonstrate it with the microphones, but I just changed my body position and my feet came closer to yours. Did you notice that? Okay. So in Gestalt therapy, my foot would be even closer, and that's sort of creating a connection between the therapist and the client that actually helps to co-regulate the turmoil and trauma that you're literally reliving, and it pulls you back into the room together. So there's different theories in therapy that operate with this, and mirror neurons that evidently we discovered in the 90s. That is not that long ago.
I don't know if I said it on the show, but I think I talked to Alicia about it afterwards. At worst case, I think I think it is at the end of the show, but I think a lot of the stuff that we discovered in the 90s, if you go back and you look like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, a lot of that stuff it's kind of mirroring neurons, because you're doing stuff to build a quick rapport with someone. There's things you
100%.
ask, there's ways you react. Like, so if you look at, they say, oh yeah, we just discovered these. But then if you look back at a lot of the sales and marketing, Zig Ziglar and all those, they're talking about the same kind of things where you do behaviors that influences who you're with.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if you think from a sales perspective, this has been going around, whenever, I don't know, when did Dale Carnegie write the book? 50s, 60s, 40s?
We
like,
kind of knew what was
right?
happening without the science of being able to look and study the brain.
Right. They just saw the effects of, oh, it works, it doesn't work, right? And so they didn't go back on the back end and be like, well, why?
What I think is fascinating, and this goes probably totally in a different direction than what we need to, and we need to get to the last show. It's just fascinating the way that our bodies operate and the way that we were created, and how this all functions. Like we're created in a way where we're driven to connect, to cohabitate, to relate, to co-regulate, to be in groups. I mean, there's a reason why we're pack animals, and
Because of dogs.
Because dogs.
I was thinking, I was trying to butt out, but thank you for saying it.
Adam's really appreciative that you took his line. It's squashing my cool thought. All right, I'll quit now. Adam Cloninger.
Yes.
What is love? I put you on a spot just because you did that to me.
You were asking me the same question you asked John. See, I do watch some stuff.
That's true.
Yeah, your shorts pop up a lot, so that was one of the ones. But then it cut off. Did y'all know that? It cut off.
What did?
That's all it said. You asked, what is love? And it didn't say anything. It just like that was.
The short?
Yeah, that was the end of it.
A 2-second short?
No, it was, like you, well, it was more than 2 seconds, but you said, what is love? And he just kind of sat there for a minute, and then it just went away.
Neil?
I'll have to go back and look at it and see which one that one was.
You
saw them first.
I didn't see that short. I didn't pick a short that was that short.
I mean, I didn't hear any, John that didn't respond to it.
Interesting. I'll have to go back and find it.
Well, you know what I have found is that sometimes when I'm reviewing the shorts, that actually happens on Opus is what we use, and I have to finagle it to hear the whole short. So honestly,
it's still all right. It's cliffhanger.
I wonder that might be something we need to be aware of. But anyway, What is Love is episode 316, Adam, that we did on June the whatever last week. And the 3 questions: do you think love is more about feeling or choosing to commit? How have different kinds of love shown up in your life? Romantic, passion, deep friendship, or maybe self-love? And then what type of love do you want more of in your relationships right now? Provocative questions, but yeah, let me seriously then ask you, Adam, what is love? What do you think? How do you answer that in your own brain? I'm not
sure how to even define that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to define
Well,
it.
I guess the second part of that is it feelings or is it commitment?
Well, it's both.
Then that's the landing spot for sure, yeah. But I think I want to ask you honestly, just as a non-clinical person, to struggle with that a little bit. Like, you have to ask yourself, does she love me? Does she love me not? We're dating. We're doing this. We're doing that. You have parents, family. Like, and actually, it's cool because religion's not a big part of your life either.
Yeah.
Fair to say. I think you've said that on the show right now. So what is love then? How do you, as a non-clinical person, wrangle with that?
I mean, if somebody cares for you, that's a way of them showing love, and to me, that is love. I mean, Julie does things that just little things. Just,
Right.
It's always thinking of me, and some people might think it's just a little minor thing, but I'm like, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
She's so awesome.
Yeah, she's all right. Okay. What do you hear with that, Neil? I'm curious, and from your perspective in the shows and all, what is love?
I think Adam didn't want to become vulnerable there. He's like, I want to go, but I don't. But no, love is. I think love starts as a feeling and then it becomes a commitment. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah.
Because one of those things, like we talk about the different types of loves, like infatuation and lust, and then passion, and then deep loving, and then family.
It evolves.
It evolves, right?
Yeah.
And I think it gets to the point where you guys talk about Fiddle on the Roof. It's like she chose to do his laundry, his dishes, his cooking for 20 some odd years
Milked
or 40
his
years.
cow.
Right, exactly. And it becomes a commitment, right? You have to make that choice every day. Am I going to love this person or continue loving this person or not? Because as we saw from the first show, it's like, how quick is it do we take things personal, and then our love disappears because now we're all triggered and hurt by it, right? You have to make that choice that I'm going to choose to love this person that I'm with. That's my take on it. You starts with the infatuation, the rose-colored glasses, everything's great. Once you get past that and you really get committed to it, then you have to make that choice.
Then you want to start doing stuff for the person more, in my opinion.
Well, actually, you might not want. That's an interesting word I'd like to challenge in your statement. But you choose to do things for that person. You purposely build into that. Because sometimes you're really not going to want to, and you don't have to, but you choose to because you know the other person loves this thing.
Yeah, but there's also, and I think we may have done a show on this too, kind of. There's also, it might have been about the, I don't know, it might have been about determination or something, but it was, you can also be selfish in that you want to do something for someone because it makes you feel good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
You do it for them. You do that for them, but
Yeah.
it gives you satisfaction. So some
You
people,
know that you feel good when you're
some
kind.
people can give you can say you're doing it. You're doing something good, but it's selfish reason, really, because you're doing it. Now, if it made you feel bad, you probably wouldn't do it.
Correct.
So
Yeah. I think there's a lot of mixing goes on there. I mean, you feel good when you're kind. I mean, it feels good to give, and so when you're giving to somebody, there's a bump there. But I don't know. I think there's a commitment part to this. Like, you're not going to feel like the fiddler on the roof, like you're talking, Neil. We discussed in the show, like doing all these tasks all the time is a real commitment. I mean, it's a real grind. You do things in for a marriage, for the marriage, not for you all the time. A stupid little thing is toilet paper wrap. Does it have to go over top or can it go underneath? Everyone has a preference.
The patent says it goes over the top.
Does it?
Yes.
The patent says. But I like on the bottom. Is that wrong?
Very
Yes.
much.
Wow. So if we were living together, I guess I'd have to do this for the purpose of the relationship. Because, by the way, we love each other in so many more ways than just marriage. We're not just talking about marriage. So do you think love is more about a feeling or choosing to commit? And I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit more even leaning towards choosing. I think you have to be purposeful about what you're trying to do. Feelings are going to fade. Feelings are going to be fickle. Feelings, as you say, is infatuation, and it goes away pretty easily. It doesn't take long. As a matter of fact, they say that oxytocin is a hormone that is the love hormone is what's called. It makes you feel affection. It makes you feel fond. It makes you feel wonderful towards this person. Well, you get heavy doses for 6 months of that as you were meeting somebody new. And then between 6 months and 2 years, scientifically, we understand that it's gone. There's no more biological help. And therefore, it does evolve, and you have to be purposeful about it. So I kind of feel like more commitment for most people, except for Adam.
Yep.
Because he's wearing weird glasses, a strange hat, and has an ugly beard. Sorry. I don't know why I'm being mean to you today. Maybe I'm angry with you and don't know it.
You must have said something that he took very personally.
Yes, I got triggered. I am triggered. I'm taking it personally. Though we're not married, though. I'm going to make that clear to everybody in the world. Adam and I are not married. All right. How have different kinds of love shown up in your life romantic passion, deep friendship, or maybe self-love is an interesting, provocative question. Look, I think anytime you care about somebody and you develop a relationship, like, I have grown to love and appreciate my friends, and we'll tell them, Neil, I love you. Adam, I love you. You guys are both friends. And I think that if you allow that to be real and to be present, like, love shows up all over the place. Is that fair?
Yep.
What type of love do you want more in your relationships right now? I don't know. It's an interesting, provocative. What do you take from that? What do you want more? What type of love do you want more of in life now?
I just want to be left alone.
Is that a type of love?
Is that a type of love?
He wants
solitude.
to leave me alone, love.
Love me with solitude. Wow.
It's been a rough week. Sorry.
Clearly.
But no, I wanted the comment that you didn't see on YouTube. I wanted to.
Okay.
I wanted to.
Is it a good spot for it?
Yeah, because it talks about it actually like 2 seconds ago a bit better. But here's his, because this was the short about self-love. You guys talked about that part. This person responds saying, "I'm sorry, but self-love has taken over the United States. All anybody does anymore is think of themselves over everyone and everything around them. Accepting yourself is not self-love. I hate this idea." Now, I want to come back on this thing because to me, what we're seeing in America is not self-love.
No.
Because just like...
Probably the opposite.
Oh, 100%. Because to me, what's happening, it's all a facade. And while they say that, oh, you got to, accept yourself and love yourself, no one, when it comes down to it, they're not really loving and accepting themselves. And I think accepting yourself is not really loving yourself, because accepting you're kind of cutting it short. So to me, just like I choose to love my wife every day and choose to do those things, you have to choose self-love, and you have to really mean it. I don't think the people who say, oh, I have self-love, or you need to practice, they don't really mean it. They have issues they have to work on. And I think that's the problem. It's not the fact that we're saying doing it. We're doing it wrong. We're doing it half-heartedly.
I 100% second that, agree with everything that you said, and I think it needs to be expounded on and further highlighted because there's so much here. Yeah, listen, I might honestly even submit, if you're thinking about getting into a place that is not humanly possible. I mean, the most purest love that you can have is unconditional love. It's called agape love, and human beings aren't capable of it. It's completely unregarded to self and completely accepting as the person is, unconditionally loving them. And humans can't do that. But I think that we can come closer to, this is crazy. Think about this now. And it's really a fresh and new thought in the moment. Is it not maybe easier to offer some at least form of unconditional love towards somebody else, or unconditional love and acceptance of ourselves? Because I'm going to submit that might even be harder to fully accept yourself than it is to fully accept another person. What do you think? Sound crazy?
You think it's harder for somebody to fully accept themselves than fully accept somebody else?
I'm hypothesizing that. I think that's possible. It's a brand new thought.
Yeah, I can see that in a sense, because you may be more critical of yourself for different various reasons, stuff that would talk about stuff that triggers them or whatever.
Right. Listen, if I paint a wall and then I look at a wall that's painted by somebody else, what do you notice?
You notice all your flaws.
Right.
I missed that spot. I missed that spot. And you look at theirs like, oh, that's perfect. I wish I painted like that. And then that
100%.
person comes in and looks and be like, look at all the spots I missed. And you're like, what? I didn't see those.
It's a perfect example, I think, of what I was just saying, honestly. It just came to me. We know all of the failures that we have. We know all of our struggles. We know, human beings have so many insecurities, countless and deep and hard. So it's hard to accept.
And we know
yourself.
ours more than anybody's.
Way better, way clearer. And you just don't see the other person's.
You might be onto something there.
Yeah, and so to your point, Neil. Yeah, I think in the YouTuber's comment there, we're not nearly coming up to the theme of loving ourselves in the world when we're egocentric, self-absorbed, and narcissistic, to use some words.
Yeah, again, and I think that's the thing, right? We're self-absorbed. We don't self-love ourselves. We're self-absorbed. We want what we want, right? To make us feel good.
Egocentric, baby.
But it's not that deep meaning of self-love, the idea of joy and happiness and really being, forgiving and gracious to yourself and, loving everything about, and really fully loving yourself. Like that's a whole nother level that we just, as a society, I feel like we're really far from that.
Maybe as a human race, Neil, honestly, the brokenness that humans are is profound, and the healthiest of us that are out there, I don't know, maybe, are they much better than the worst of us out there? When it comes to how much we pick ourselves apart and feel insecure and have doubts and fears. I mean, it's just, we're loaded full of all that. So, yeah, interesting there. I think we got to move on, though. Goodness, where are we at? Yeah, we need to wrap up, move on. How do we summarize all of this? There's forms of love, the different words. I mean, we had some conversation on YouTube. To Neil's point, man, email us, make some comments. We love kicking them around. You guys got great thoughts, and we've had a lot of that lately, and I've enjoyed it. I do want to cover this before we lose time. Well, we already have, but I don't want to. I definitely wanted to comment on Sternberg's triangle love theory of love. Did you listen to that, Neil? I thought that was pretty fascinating.
I like how it broke it down and gave you the middle ground when you get the different pieces. So I thought it was really, really cool.
It's really hard. They had a triangle and a diagram of it to really help you understand this. But check this out. I've never heard of this before until I was doing this show prep. Love comprises of 3 components: intimacy, liking the person; passion, which is the infatuation, a lot of it's sexual; and then commitment. And that's empty love, like the fiddler, right? So those are the 3 elements, and the different combinations of the 3 elements. You might not have all of those all at once, trying to foster them. But again, intimacy, liking the person; passion, having infatuation; and then commitment, which is empty, not really empty, but like the fiddler on the roof, it's doing things, tasks. So the combinations are interesting. Intimacy and passion equates to romantic love. So again, intimacy, I like you, and passion, and I like, really like you. Sorry, that was the way it came to my mind. Equals romantic love. And then intimacy, I like you, and commitment, I'm going to do things for you, is companion love. And then commitment and passion is fatuous love. But all 3 together is the goal, where you have intimacy, commitment, and passion, and they say that to be consummate love. He had a diagram with that. I just thought that was fascinating. This is when you guys have to say, yes, Chris, it was fascinating.
I haven't seen the diagram, so I have nothing to say.
Is that hard to follow without the diagram?
I was just thinking during the show you should pop up something, show the diagram. I was like, I really was thinking that.
Little icon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we planned better.
If we planned better. Hey, I'm doing better with that these days.
But no, I think the interesting part about this, and we can kind of wrap up with this, but I think the idea that there's a difference between intimacy and passion, and I think we talked about last time, because it talked about like intimacy and commitment as a companionate love. So it's different. I think there's a lot of people who take intimacy as it's only like, more sexual, like we're really close and intimate kind of thing. But really, intimacy is that vulnerability, that connection you have with people you built a really strong relationship with, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think that's something that people might misunderstand when you say that a companionate love is intimacy and commitment. Well, I don't know. I don't want to be intimate with my bros, right? But it's different. And I think people have to understand that there is a vulnerability with the intimacy that I think is very important.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, lots of things there. I think we ran a little long today, but it's a good review. I think it's good topics that we have. I don't know where we're going next month. I have to figure out what theme we have. Email us, contact@throughwiththerapisteyes.com. Help me out with the theme for July, or if you're not quick enough, help me out with the theme for what comes after July. August. June, July, August. Yeah, I had to think there for a second. All right, closing thoughts, comments? Let's just wrap it up, get out of here. I think Adam and I are hungry, man. Are you going to be hungry, Neil?
I think I already ate. I'm going to have to go home.
Oh.
I got a lot of work to do. I've been up early, so.
Fair point.
Yeah,
Fair
my
point.
stomach's growling like a wolf right now.
All right, Adam and I are going to go eat, but we're not going to eat a wolf. Listen, you guys,